My name is Gabo Aurora. I'm a creator of virtual reality documentaries. I've made a whole host of films with the United Nations and with Here Be Dragons, a production company here in LA and in New York. I've used the power of VR for social impact and for a lot of these social causes, and that's what I've dedicated a lot of my time towards. Before VR, at the UN, I had done a short viral video called Keep the Oil in the Ground. It's on the Amazon rainforest. And it was my first sort of effort to bring in some elements of creativity to our advocacy work at the UN and use the power of the internet and getting people to act on things. And that video was tied to a petition because it was about illegal oil exploration in indigenous territories in the Amazon. It has almost 2 million views. It led to a whole bunch of people signing a petition, which led the Ecuadorian government to apologize to the Sariaco community. My first idea was to do something related with immersive theater, because I had seen some immersive theater come from the UK into New York, and I just said, wouldn't it be amazing if we did something related maybe to the refugee crisis or something that would give people in this sort of elitist town in Switzerland and these very rich and powerful people a true sense of what it's like, and maybe that will motivate them to give more and to do more. And when I mentioned that, they were like, well, that would be really difficult, and that production is difficult, but why don't you just, have you heard of virtual reality? I said, well, no, not really, I haven't. And they said, well, wouldn't it be amazing if you had people put on the goggles and they were in a refugee camp? And I said, that's a really great idea. When I got to Zatri, I was amazed at how big it was, the camp, and how it was pretty well organized, like a little city, yet at the same time was still a refugee camp that people didn't necessarily feel was home. I think the sense of limbo, the sense of like frustration of people, but at the same time this hospitality that they had, this openness to share with what little they had, was really profound. I just thought that if one was able to see some of these spaces, that it would counter some of the stereotypes of what it is to be a refugee. I had seen this video of young girls in Zadri gleefully playing soccer and actually talking about how this was their first time playing soccer because they didn't play soccer back in Syria, whether there's gender issues or their parents didn't encourage it. Yet they're like playing soccer like one would expect, here in California with the same sort of energy. And I'm not saying, of course, it's like, fun and games, but there was this sort of complexity of what it would be like to be a child in that situation. I think what virtual reality was able to do was give you a sense of the scale and the kind of experience of being in those spaces. And I think when you are actually in the container or the tent where she is, you really are like, what if I was sleeping here, and how would it work? And I think you couldn't get that sense in a regular sort of way. To be fair, a lot of it is also the sound. I mean, we chose to have a soundtrack, which is by some measure an unorthodox choice. It's a documentary, yet it's stylized and crafted in a way where we really felt that there was going to be something about the music in it that was going to also bring out some of the emotion. And what I think is fascinating is that people hear that don't associate their emotional feeling with the sound. And if you just take out the sound, I think you take out probably 50% of the emotion. 360, stereoscopic, binaural sound gives a sense of immersion that's fantastic and amazing. And of course, if you want to work in live action, it's basically it's the way to go if you want to do things with real people and like a cinematic thing. And but then I just thought, what's the holy grail of VR? Isn't it's more than just having your head around. You want to, can you be in a live action space or a live action looking space? Because a lot of the other room scale that I had seen was computer generated, and it left me emotionally cold. I just don't, and I just didn't. My work is about connecting with people and their stories, and I just thought possible, but probably like I don't want to lose that kind of like wow factor that we've had with the 360 work, but how do I keep thinking about it? And at some point, I was thinking I couldn't do it because the Lytro camera wasn't ready, or and then I saw 8i, and I thought it was like a step in the right direction, but needed more time. And I just thought, this is way far off. I won't be able to do something that would be what I would want, which is like you feel like you're walking around a live action space. I saw an experience by Peter Flaherty called The Surrogate. Peter has a background in projection mapping, and he's like a very talented artist who lives in Los Angeles. And The Surrogate combines being in a game engine space where you can walk around, but then you look into these portal windows that are 360 window spaces that like allow you to be like combine live action with like a space, a gaming space. And I was like, what if in the windows of like the camp, the survivor is able to then maybe look into this room and talk about his memories of him being there, and he can kind of like, you can connect with him because you'll have eye contact. It's live action. It's everything. And then, that would be an even cooler experience. I could bring him into those room environments in a way that would be great. I think it should be a perspective on a topic that most people wouldn't know about and would have a stereotypical idea about, and somehow the story flips it or makes people go, oh, I didn't know that. And that's just from a very story perspective, Waves of Grace. It's about an Ebola survivor who uses her immunity to take care of orphan children. And she's the only one who could do it because she has these superpowers and she can be there for these children when no one else can. And somehow this horrible experience has given her this like renewed hope. Technologically and with the approach to it, what is it that I haven't done before? What is it that's going to be new about it? And that used to come in the element of the story. But I think now, because we're moving into gaming engines and with creative coders, it's just a much more complex sort of understanding of what that kind of user design experience will be. And so I think having that technical brief now is very important. With The Last Goodbye, it was an innovative merger of very disparate sort of things that brings in elements of volumetric capture with photogrammetry, with merging with 360 and out of it, that I think was the creative brief. You'd look at it and be like, I want to do that. Like, I'd want to figure this out. And that motivates many different partners and people because I think we all want to solve these problems and learn from it. What I think is exciting is that, these sort of R&D efforts even, because we're all kind of doing that. But to do it on like a social topic, I think adds like a layer of motivation in people that I think brings out amazing work. Because of Clouds Over Sidra, Oculus did VR for Good. It's their inspiration. And I was part of the sort of early conversations to set up that program with Oculus for, 10 filmmakers to make work that wouldn't be funded otherwise and is able to make a difference. They have an experience called Step to the Line, which is about prison reform, which came out of that, which is an amazing project. I mentored and executive produced a project on sex trafficking in India called Notes to My Father. That's phenomenal. Is already being used by the NGO to like sensitize people in India about like how a lot of sex trafficking happens. It's a rare moment, and it's a beautiful moment, and I think it's because we were able to have a vision and people were able to support it and show result. I just hope it never turns into something that people just see as this sort of charity or this side project. And the movement in general in the world is people want more ethical products. They want to make a difference. They want to, use this moment of like anxiety and uncertainty in the world to like do things and support things. And I hope that the VR sort of work and social impact that I've been able to do and many people are doing is something that people see as like a core sort of thing to support to solve our social problems and to make us better people. When I first started trying to do any of these stories, people just said, people don't care. They want cat videos and, other things. And, we've proven them wrong. And I think this the how well documentaries do on Netflix now, is showing that like young people, especially like really care about issues. For this to be a real movement, I think that has to be sustained in a new and creative way. I have good days and bad days, I definitely have bad days and pessimistic days because I just think after a while, is it going to be the same forces that take us apart? And that's why, keep working hard, keep trying to collaborate with people, keep trying to get the message out, keep trying to get people inspired to keep making great stuff, but working together, sharing, collaborating. It's the reason, I do what I do.